Hi guys, hope you had a great Christmas. It's in between that period between Christmas and New Year now where I'm looking for stuff to do. We've done all the presents, we've played all the games, we've done everything, and now I'm doing a few things. So I'm going to do a few YouTube videos indoors, mainly on the sewing machine stuff and DIY stuff, just to put up while we get into 2016 and get out to do some camping. This year I'm probably going to make a lot of hammocks, a lot of tarps for people, people who want that kind of stuff. I'm going to be making the high-end, super lightweight, best fabrics in the world kind of stuff, imported from America, I think. Got some on the way at the moment just to test out and see what it's all like. But yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome this year. So I thought I'd do a quick video now on how to clean your sewing machine, and then I'll do another video on how to set the tension, because everybody seems to have a lot of trouble with that, so I'm going to do a video on that. So first of all, let's do how we clean it. So this is my sewing machine. You've seen it in other videos, I suspect, and it's had a pretty good use recently, so it does need a good clean, and I'll be showing you that. If you want to keep it in good working order, it's best to clean it every time you've done a major project, really, and then it'll be working all the time for many years. So things you need a paintbrush, soft or a firm tip paintbrush, you need tissue, you need sewing machine oil. Buy this from a local sewing shop. Don't use oil you've got in your garage, because it's not the right weight for the sewing machine. It's got to be a specific gravity for sewing machines, so get some good quality oil, and probably a torch would be useful, and a lot of light. You're going to need that. This is a new Nightcore EC20 torch. I'll do a little review on that later. Fantastic torch. So I got that for Christmas. First things first, what you're going to tend to find is, first of all, take out all your thread, take the bobbin out. Going to have to do a lot of this stuff one-handed, so it's going to be tricky. Thread holder. Right then, so you have your machine ready to clean. So take the needle out, put that to one side. Take your plate off. Now maybe you need to undo some screws. On this one it just lifts out, but sometimes you have to undo it a little bit to take the plate off. So take the plate off, take the foot off. Usually do all the screws back up so they don't get lost or fall out while you're cleaning. So you can see here, not too bad. There's a bit of fluff in there. It does need a good clean, but it's not too bad. I've seen it worse where in here you can get fluff build up, and it builds up so high it pushes on the plate and stops the feed dogs from coming up, and your fabric doesn't feed through properly, so that's something to be wary of. So just get your paintbrush, go through all of this, taking out all the dust. Just brush it into the bottom of the sewing machine for now. You can use a toothbrush. If it's really bad, use a toothbrush and some white spirit to clean it. But this isn't too bad, so just clean all that. Right, next thing you need to do is take out this bit. That bit in there, and clean inside there. There's a little, on here there's a little catch, and then the whole machine tilts up. But it's really heavy, so you've got to be really careful. This is the bobbin case. There's loads of different ways these work, so mine's just a pull off, but you might have little latches that fold down. Take your hook out. So that's the hook there. Check the hook, see if it's damaged. So in here, sometimes you can see pitting on the surface. See pitting there or pitting down here, then it's probably the needle's been hitting it and it probably needs replacing, because the hook might be bent. Make sure the hook's nice and sharp. That one's quite clean. I'm just going to give it a little wipe with the tissue. just to clean it up a bit, see if there's any marks on it. So there's a little scratch on it, don't know if you can see that. But yeah, that's not too bad, so that's fine. So yeah, just make sure that's all clean. Make sure there's no bits in it. There's some. So this is something you don't oil, so don't ever put any oil on there because it will get onto your thread and ruin your thread. And then in here, there's quite a lot of dust in here. What's the best thing to do is brush all this down and then brush out the bottom of the unit once you've done it. You can use compressed air can if you want. Now, you can put a spot of oil in here. It's best to turn the... You can see how it's all moving and working, and then you can see the points that need oiling. So at the back of this point here where it's rotating, just in there, you want to put a little bit of oil in there. I tend to put oil in all the points that need that have a moving sort of action. Whenever there's a bearing, you put some oil in there. When you put the oil on, just put one drop, and that's enough. I'm going to put some on there, and there. Just put one drop in, and give it a few turns. This thing up here, move you up a little bit, this is awkward. So this thing here is the how high or how low the feet are. So put a bit of oil on there. That's too much now because there's going to be a drip coming down, so just get your tissue and just take off any excess. On mine, there's an important point just in there. See that round pin? That has a lot to do with the feet moving up and down, so I'm going to put a drop of oil in there. It's quite awkward sometimes to get the oil in. That's fine. Now the whole of the feet are hinged at the back. See that thing slightly moving? So that needs a bit of oil in the joints there. So the whole of the mechanism for the feet moving up and down is now oiled, and the bobbin case. Now you want to feed the main shaft. And there's an oil hole there. You can turn the whole machine upside down and put some oil in there if you like, but that's a bit tricky, so I just tend to put it on the outside or either side of the joint. It's quite oiled in there. I'm going to put a little bit just in there. There you go, that's better. This takes a lot of wear because it's always moving, this piece here. Put some in there. So just go round and all the moving parts that you can see. There's a joint there that's always moving, but it's got plenty of oil on, so no need to do that. So underneath, that's done now. So while we're down here, I'm just going to clean out the bottom section. Going in here again for a while. Keep it all tidy. Okay, good. While we're here, I'll put the hook back in. It only goes in one way, so. They're all slightly different, so you'll have to see how it works for yours. And then just give it a few turns, make sure there's nothing catching, nothing going to cause any problem. When you put it back, don't have your fingers in the case because it will crush your fingers. Done that a few times. So that's all done now. That can go back on. You can put your feet and your needle back in if you want. And just give it a few turns. There you go, nice and smooth. Right, the next big section is in here. So on mine, there might be a screw in the front, but on mine it just pops off, but there could be a screw in there. This is where you get a lot of the wear in here. There's a lot of moving parts in here. So you just want to put a few drops where it's moving the most. Just one drop's enough. This is a bit tricky in here because if you put too much in here, it drips down the post and then down the needle and then onto your fabric. You've got to be careful not to put too much in this bit. Sometimes it does drip a bit after you've done this for the first few goes that you use it. So it's best to give it a good run after this before actually using it on a project. Lovely and smooth. And then don't forget your foot. Down here you've got your foot that goes up and down. There'll be some, this is not really bearings, these are just guides, but it's good to give those a bit of an oil. Also stops any rust from getting in as well. So the tension, you don't really want to take that apart. You can take it apart, but you don't want to, because setting up the tension from scratch is quite a big job and you may never get it back again how you had it set up before, so it's really tricky. So I suggest just using a paintbrush and going through that. Any dust that's on the machine is going to end up on your work, so try and get most of that off. So that's the front done. Now we're going to take the top plate off. 2 screws on mine. On here, take the top off. See here where all the main points are. All these little holes are oil holes, so you want to put drops in all of those. We've done the front, so we can ignore that now. Put it in there. Yeah, anything that's shiny, anything that moves, just put a drop of oil on. Run it around a few times. Don't forget your reverse switch. Sometimes it's difficult to get the oil down there, so just drop it from a height and try and drop it on the bit that needs it. That'll slowly feed down that little hole. So I like to put some in here, which is the main one. Just one drop. That's all it needs. Don't put any oil here because it'll slip your belt or on your motor. You don't need any oil on the motor. So here we got the adjusting the width. Down on that screw down there. They're kind of designed where they can't really be, you can't put oil on and mess it up. You can put too much on and you end up with a bit of a mess, but you don't really cause any problem, to be honest. They're designed so well that it'll just help it doesn't tend to mess it up. So that's that. So we've oiled all the major parts now. And then just give the base of it, now you've sort of disturbed it all, you're going to get a lot of bits down here. You can use some white spirit on it if you want. Just get all the dust out. Any dust that you don't pick up will end up on your work anyway, so try and pick it all up. If you've got a little toothbrush, now's a good time to give it a good clean in all the cracks and things like that if you want to spend a bit of time on it. The microfiber cloths are quite good because the dust obviously sticks to it rather than just moves it around. Usually put the feet down if you can, it's easier to clean. once you've finished, put as low as it goes and just wipe that bar there. It'll stop any drips coming down. Running really smooth now. Then just put your feet back on and your plates back on and the top cover back on, all that kind of stuff. When you put a needle in, you always put the flat side. I'll show you. I have to turn you on your side a minute. Forgive me for that. See, there's a little post there with a groove in it and a pin at the top. That's where the needle hits, and you've got to make sure the needle goes all the way up to that pin, and the flat side of the needle goes against the flat side of that groove. Most of the older machines, the flat side is on this side, on the right, but it could be towards the back, so you've got to check. Okay, so you get your flat side, turn it to where it needs to be. You can take your foot out, it does make it easier. Make sure the flat side's right. There you go. There you go. Perfect. If the needle's bent at all, replace the needle. If it's catching or you're getting issues with it, replace the needle anyway. That's the first thing you try. One way to check a needle if it's bent is to put the flat side down on a surface and you hold it, and that needle should be exactly parallel to the surface with a small gap underneath. It's probably hard to see. It's a small gap underneath, and that gap should be flat, even, sorry, so then the needle's pretty straight. There's two things that can happen with a needle. One thing is it gets bent, and that's really easy to do, can happen any time. And the other thing is it gets blunt, and that just happens over time, so as you're using it, and those two things will cause all sorts of problems with your stitching and loops underneath and all sorts of stuff. So and there we have it, it's all done. So once it's done, I tend to give it a bit of a go. So what happened there? That sometimes happens if the motor's going round but the needle's not moving properly. See that? It means this on the end has slipped, which is like a torque nut. You tighten that up and it will move. You undo it, it won't move, and that's for threading your bobbin. So I'll show that in another video. Once this is done up, it should stay. Not slip, so that's good. And I've got a situation now where it's, there you go, perfect. Good. So everything's clean now, ready for the next job. It doesn't take very long, but it keeps the machine in good working order and lasts a lot longer. Cause you a lot of problems. So thanks for that. That's how you clean your machine. Hope it is useful, and see you in the next vid. Bye.